We're good. I would say I'll turn it over to Matt. So if this is you guys' first time, we call this group Autobots. We meet every single Thursday. That's not a QA at the point Thursday. So three weeks out of the month. And it's just all about test automation, all about programming. We want to help you guys dive right into it. I wanted to set this up, and we set it up quite a while ago. It's been a while. Vern would know on YouTube, but we started quite a while ago, and the whole purpose was QA at the point, talking once a month was not fast enough. So I wanted people to be able to, at least weekly, which I still think isn't enough, at least weekly be able to get together, let's work on things together, solve problems, ask questions, and it's just 2 hours of let's just do stuff. So we program a lot, we talk a lot, we challenge a lot, and we have fun a lot with a PH. Other than that, guys, I'll turn the time over to Matt, who is the man of the hour. And so Matt, introduce yourself and tell us what we're doing here.
Okay, so my name is Matt Chang. I've been doing QA for 20+ years. First started at Novell. Was doing a lot of more interop testing, setting up hundreds and thousands of machines, and that's where I started in automation. I hated setting up all the machines manually, so back then there wasn't a whole lot of great resources until we discovered WinRunner and LoadRunner, which was okay, but it didn't get us everything that we needed. So we had to do a lot of custom C and C++ programming to build our own little tools to manage the network. And then once hit about 2005 is when I started moving to the Java world to do the automation. My background, I have a CS background, but I didn't like programming 100% of the time. I love doing system work and data communication stuff. So that's why I stuck in the QA. But I also saw a need that there wasn't a whole lot of good tools out there to increase our velocity. And some of you guys might know that back in the day, Novell was great at laying people off every 6 months to a year. And so we're always trying to figure out a way how to cut costs. So automation is a great way to cut costs. And so that's the push for it. So I guess I've been writing automation for about 19 years in different languages, different tools. And so this is my first time at the Autobots. I'm happy to be here. I got to start talking to Carlos about a month ago. And we kind of met for lunch about a week and a half ago and kind of said, hey, you guys need any help learning some stuff? Or because we want to, my goal right now, I'm at STG, Software Technology Group, and we have a struggle to find people with the right knowledge set. I think that's the same scenario up and down the Wasatch Front.
100%.
And my goal with doing a certification is that ultimately there's not a really good way in QA to measure each other's skills. You can say I've been building automation for 20 years. I've been building automation for 10 years. I've seen people who've written automation for 6 months have more advanced coding skills and understands automation better than people who've done automation for 10 years. And people who've done automation for 10 years, their velocity for how much they can make themselves efficient is maybe one extra hour a day that they're increasing velocity, because they're on a daily basis, they are sitting there manipulating their scripts and changing their script because it doesn't work consistently. So how do you get past that? Well, certification is a great way, but there's not a good certification out there. There's great ones for if you want to do manual QA, the ISTQB certifications. Those are great to understand theory, but not the hands-on process. Automation, out of the question. Plenty of videos on YouTube, but they're kind of scattered. Doesn't really help you build a solution. So ultimately with the certification, if you want to do the second level as well, it teaches you and gives you concepts of how to build a solution from beginning to end. So that way it's a point click, whether it's in Jenkins, it's time-based, or it's triggered by somebody manually, or it can watch for a curl command from from a build. So if a new build gets deployed, the last step in the build will send a curl command to Jenkins, and it starts kicking off your automation. At the end of the automation script, what do we need? If it's all blind to everybody, we gotta have good reporting. We don't have good reporting in automation, so that's part of the concepts that we'll cover in the advanced level 2. So it depends on where everybody wants to get to. I'm happy to be here to teach everybody as much as I can. For this first part of the challenge, or for the first part of why we're doing Node and WebDriver, I've been programming with Java for 15 plus years. I've also written automation solutions in Python. They're great solutions, but they're not great for single page apps written in Angular, in Vue, in React, in Polymer components, web components. Web components was a reason why I started learning Node, because it has a shadow DOM. So for those of you guys who understand a web page, everything inside the web page is a DOM element. The only problem is when you have a shadow DOM, WebDriver can't find that shadow DOM. So if it can't find it, even though it's there physically, you can see it. But as you start typing in your Java commands trying to identify the DOM element, it will never find it. So you have to write custom helpers. Your custom helpers are written in JavaScript. So you're taking JavaScript and using Java to inject it onto your page, and then you get an element back, and you're supposed to traverse the rest of that HTML. That is a painful process. It took one of the guys I work with probably about a month to write our helper class. And it works 50% of the time. The rest of the time, we're still custom injecting our custom code and trying to find certain patterns to our code that we can make it more generic for everybody else to utilize. So that's the reason why I decided to try Node. The nice thing with NodeJS is that it is really fast. You can open up a web page, you can do your validation. I'll show you the third challenge as what we'll try to hopefully get to today. If we don't get to it, we'll do as homework. I can validate challenge 3 within about 7 seconds from beginning to end with the scripts and all the assertions. So if you have to run 100 scripts, it shouldn't take you that long. On the chat on Slack tonight, I mentioned that I taught the challenge 1 and 2 to one of our developers. He lost his QA due to a reorg, and he wants a way to just automate the basic validation. If I click a link, does the page load? And he wants to navigate to all the links and just see if the page loads. That's one of their biggest failure points. Sometimes somebody changes the endpoint, service breaks, it doesn't load. Once he finished challenge 2, he was able to write about 70 test cases. Those 70 test cases takes about 2 minutes to run. So on a daily basis, he gets in the morning, runs the script, 2 minutes later, it's all good, he's done for the day for his manual validation. After that, just certain features that he's writing, and then go on. So that's the history of me.
We have a question online. Someone's asking, just to be clear, the shadow DOM, is that an Angular artifact or a different construct? What is the shadow DOM?
A shadow DOM is, if you look at Polymer components, Polymer web components is a library. It's a library that started by Google. And it's a way to encapsulate, if you look at CSS on a web page, the CSS, once you have to either target really specifically on your web page, or you have to figure out how to not mess up somebody else's CSS. Well, when you're building out widgets, so let's say a widget exists on a certain piece of page, to build out the CSS for that widget, you really have to be careful on who's modifying the CSS and making sure it doesn't bleed out and other people don't mess up your CSS as you're messing around with it. The nice thing with a web component is that when you build a widget, all that CSS gets encapsulated in that component. And even if you have, let's say, 30 of those same components on a web page, the CSS will never bleed out. Unfortunately, that's also encapsulated in this virtual DOM that only Chrome can handle it. Firefox started supporting the shadow DOM back in November of last year. Internet Explorer does not support shadow DOM. Safari, I think, started supporting shadow DOMs within the same time as Firefox. But basically, it's this virtual DOM that sits by itself that never bleeds out to everybody else. Well, when it can't bleed out to everybody else, our automation can't get into the shadow DOM. So every time we try to do anything with a shadow DOM, you have to pierce the shadow DOM and inject JavaScript just to pierce it to pull back elements and figure out what we need to execute.
Cool. So moving into this now, could you give us like a quick just elevator pitch, the 1, 2, 3 of what are we going to get out of coming to each one of these sessions? Like at the end of it, you're going to get 1, 2, 3.
You're going to learn how to write automation JavaScript with WebDriver. You're going to learn how to write functional automation that's reusable, not just 1,000 scripts that we're going to be building. You're going to be building out stuff that can handle stuff more dynamically. And 3, hopefully you can become a solution engineer. So if somebody wants you to build an automation, they say, this is my application I want to automate. You can figure out the right tool set, the right way to automate it, and they can have, by the end, they can have a point-click solution.
Sweet stuff. So let's get into it, man.
Yeah.
Let's do this thing.
Does everybody have the document that I sent out on the Autobots?
Sorry. Just opened it.
Okay. Yeah. It's all good. So first part, it is step-by-step through that document. And we'll pull it up here. We can skip that first part. Let's start with step 1. Does everybody have NodeJS installed? If you don't, click on this link and let's download NodeJS. Now, for those of you who are on Mac, which is more than 70% of everybody in here, make sure you click on this install Node on Mac link, because there are security things that are a little bit different than on a PC. If you're on a PC, you actually get pretty lucky.
Is there a specific version we're going to be working with?
Just download the latest.
So if they have an older version, do they have to update?
If you're on version, I think if you're on version 5 or 6 or older, you probably want to get the latest one. Let's take a look at what the current long-term support is. Long-term LTS is
Nice.
yeah. So let's download 10.15 for everybody who are here.
So update if you're at what level?
If you're at 6, I think if you're older than 6, you have to update.
It's still BR guest for Jenkins, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, I'm sort of at the moment trying to be ambidextrous with Mac versus PC.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, and I'm pretty beginner, do you think that I'd have an easier time if I stuck with PC, or does it truly not matter?
It shouldn't matter, but the permissions on a Mac is a lot different.
Okay.
So it might be easier to get started with a PC than a Mac.
Can you go back to that page that you had with the instructions? Not that one, the document. Yeah. So today we're going to be completing challenge 1 then?
We're going to try to finish challenge 1, which is the quick start guide, and we're going to write our own validation with challenge 2.
Okay.
Because challenge 1 basically gives you a quick start guide, and literally if you walk through the rest of the steps here, by step 17, I give you the whole entire code. So I'm not really challenging. I just want you to get something written up so you know your system is working.
Cool.
How do you create a workspace in Visual Code? Never done that.
You can say, well, you won't need one, but
Is it in the office?
you can save workspaces. So if you do a file save workspace, you can do that, but you don't need a workspace.
So just a new file.
Yeah, just make sure you're in the directory you want to be in. So make a new directory. So don't just do it like on your home drive, for example.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so make a directory called like, I don't know, NodeJS like automation or
All right.
challenges of the chain. Boom. That's what we got to call it. I've decided.
Challenge chain, is what we're gonna call it?
Yeah. Challenges of the chain. And then Matt's just going to go like this. Look at the camera.
That's right.
Challenges with chain at night.
So we might not get to challenge 3, but let me show you what how you guys are setting it up so that we.
So also a question on this, are we going to create a new project for each challenge, or we just going to build off?
Yeah, that might be something helpful to go over, Matt. How would you want them to structure their?
For now, for each challenge, we'll just create a new project, and then actually, but the projects kind of go hand in hand with your setup and tear down stuff like that. And we'll go over that here in a minute. So we'll just copy and paste the code. So that way, if you don't finish challenge 3, don't worry about it. We can move on to challenge 4. So challenge 3, if we get to it tonight, it basically goes to the site that we're going to be looking at is copart.com. So most of you guys didn't really get to see what happened there, but on Copart, so the test took 8 seconds to run. I'll show you what Copart looks like.
Was that 3 separate tests or just 3 different validations?
There's 3 separate validation points right in there. So the test, what it actually did, if you look at copart.com, the reason why I chose this is that their site is built in Angular. They have a central nav that is completely dynamic to on the page. If you look at this navigation drop down, there's 3 items in it. This one doesn't even have a drop down. This one has 3. This one has 5. And then if you run a search, this is the part that gets scary. Let's do, I'll tell you what. There's a lot of busy work on this page. So if you are an automation engineer, how do you go about validating all the data, your pagination, your filters, and then how do you go about, because if you automate the UI, it's going to be very slow. UI automation is not going to be fast. You're going to have to wait for this whole entire section to load because it's a server side. So if you watch this very closely, if I search for Nissan, notice the page loads and then your data loads. That causes issues with your automation. You can't just immediately target it without having to do certain weights for it. But you also don't want to inject artificial weights and have to wait for 30 seconds. That slows down your script. So there's a lot of data to look through here. And then also if you look at your queries, there is a search right here. In your search, so in the level 2 of the challenge, we're going to go over how do you test without testing UI. Because if you look at how many filters they have, this will be nearly impossible to run if you're running the UI. We're going to hit these web services directly and validate the data that's coming back. So that's the reason why I chose Copart. It's a very difficult site to automate. And if you cheat, you don't learn the concepts, your scripts are going to be impossible to write. But for the first 2 or 3 challenges, if you write it correctly, your script will be roughly about 4 or 5 lines to validate the whole entire page, which is awesome. So if you look at this challenge 3, so for those of you who are reading ahead a little bit, I am grabbing all the links on the page, on the home page. So let's go to the home page. These links right here at the bottom of the page, these are dynamically generated per day. So not every link will sit in the same spot. Not every text will sit in the same spot. and the text will never show up 2 days or 3 days in a row, and they might. So how do you validate this section of the URLs that are correct, the links are correct, the text that's displayed? Okay, so.
Do they all have IDs? That would be nice.
No,
Okay.
because remember with anything with JavaScript, you're not targeting each individual element, and to ask the developer to say, well, we're going to expand this navigation from 20 elements today, we're going to add 20 more elements to the page. So now you're looking at 40 elements on the page. They do not want to write 40 individual functions for that page or 40 widgets for that page, and they don't want to have to duplicate that code. So they write one widget that they can drop onto this page and they can configure dynamically.
Gotcha.
So with how much dynamicness that we have in these with web applications nowadays, we can't statically write our scripts anymore. We have to write it dynamically to handle these. And if you look on this page here, you know, Toyota and Corolla, those are actually the same model. So it's not guaranteed it's even a make or a model. But we're going to figure out how to at least grab all this data and print it out, and we'll see if we can get that tonight. Okay. I know some of you guys might get nervous about, you know, can I do this? Let me know if it's too fast, and we can slow it down. If there's anything you want me to explain in better detail, I can explain that.
Hi, Matt. This is Ashwin. Not sure if can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. So a quick question here is, so in this kind of a site, so the target we are looking at is like in terms of passing the entire site to validate what information is being displayed, right? So you here you told about different car models being displayed on a daily basis, and would this vary for different people based on their geographic domains and stuff, like, or is it going to be like very similar?
Could you repeat that last question, that last part?
No, I meant like, so for example, if you look at the site and I look at the site from a different location, will it be different for different people, or is it just that the data is going to be refreshed?
It should be identical.
Okay.
Yeah, this site is not different per geolocation. Actually, I don't even think they support. I guess they do support a different language, and they do have a different location. What does it look like in Canada? So similar layout. And let's try a different language. Let's try Oman. So similar, but a little more different. Let's try this in. I can't read it. I better not change that in case it changes everything else. So there is different languages, but I think when you go to copart.com, I think it should be pretty much identical. And the code that we are going to be writing shouldn't be dependent on your location. Your data that you get back will be identical, or not identical, but you'll get the same similar style of data coming back to you. So how many people actually want to validate the whole entire website on Copart?
Not today.
Not today.
Start with those baby steps.
Yeah.
So, okay. So for baby steps, it sounds like what we're talking about here is integration testing. We're looking at the API, right? When you say we're validating the web services, does that make it an integration test?
It does become more of an integration test.
Okay.
But that's only on the web services. Not but for the first part that we're going to be doing, it's all going to be the functional testing on the UI. On the UI,
but not, so it's not UI testing. I'm sort of going behind the curtains of the UI.
Not yet. Okay. We're still going to be, it's going to be still UI functional testing.
Okay.
We're going to be driving the UI.
So with 5 lines of code, we'll be able to validate that, and that's still UI testing?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
because you're going to be seeing if every one of those common problems. If you look at this data right here, what if somebody if it's Honda, and it's Honda, Dodge goes to Dodge, Nissan goes to Nissan. What if right here they added some funny character? Do you go to a 404 page, right? But also remember, if we can extract this data out of the website, then we can crawl to each of these URLs and see if it goes to 404 page.
Okay.
So if you had to do this manually, you're going to go to this page. You're going to say, I want to go to Elantra, go to Impreza, Camry, and so on and so forth. And we're going to go wait here. Oh, yeah, there's data. Yep, there's data. Yes, there's data. That took us roughly, what, about 20 seconds?
Yeah.
Let's have automation do that. Automation should be able to get through all this within 30 seconds total. And it's conscious enough that it can run in the background, so you don't have to be there. So if this is all you're validating is these links every day, let's write a script. 30 seconds later, is there a failure? Because if you go to Elantra, let's say let's generate an error here. And let's go to blah. We're going to go look at Elantra blah. So we have a bad URL. I think most of these URLs are dynamically generated with their code, but the client I'm at Nu Skin, content contributors can author their own links. So if you go to, let's go to nuskin.com site really quick.
One thing I'd say, Matt, is that I would recommend that we try to stay on the challenge itself.
Yeah.
Because this is helpful, but it's going to consume all the time that we have.
Okay.
So great questions and everything, but we're almost at 6:40 already.
Yeah.
So
how far is everybody on the setup?
So help us out with that, because I didn't know we were doing more than just Node.js.
Okay, so you got your Node.js installed. Do you have your VS Code installed as well?
Yeah, so what I would say is let's make sure that we're going step by step. And so step one was Node.js. Is everyone good on the Node.js part so far?
Yes.
So step two is installing VS Code. Let's make sure we install VS Code.
Okay.
What's step three?
Are you guys able to load your VS Code? Okay. And then,
create the workspace.
yes, are you guys able to create your workspace? Okay, now, once you create your workspace.
Actually, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So I see open workspace, but not create.
So if your workspace, there's a couple ways to create your workspace. So if you want to, right here, just add folder to workspace, or find a workspace, you can just say add folder to workspace.
Okay.
And then you can go to anywhere you want on your machine. So let's go to documents, or if you want to create a new folder, you can create a new folder inside documents. This is challenges. Okay. And then we'll add that, and it'll create a new workspace for you.
Okay. So if you write.
Okay, and once you create your workspace, if you right click on your workspace right here, create a new folder, and let's call this challenge 1. And then we'll create a new file called challenge1.js.
Yeah.
So show the steps again.
Okay. So once you create your challenge 1 folder, we can now navigate to it in the terminal. So if you're in VS Code, we'll right click on this challenge 1 folder and say open in terminal.
They don't call challenges, right?
Yeah, you can do challenges or challenge one. Really, the workspace, you can name it whatever you want to,
Yeah.
as long as you guys remember what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what are the pros of having a workspace versus not having a workspace?
Having a workspace will keep all your projects together in a place. If you have related projects that depend on each other, then you can it can recognize that tree structure. So if you have challenge 2 that depends on challenge 1 code and library that you wrote, you can actually pull it up. Whereas if you don't have a workspace, then you're basically limited to just the files inside that directory.
All right, does everyone have their challenge1.js file going?
Okay.
Yep.
Are you guys navigated to, have you guys opened up a terminal inside the challenge 1 folder?
Yes.
Okay. Now, next step that you have, we're going to run this npm init. Okay, and I'll show you what npm init's going to do. So if you do npm init, this is where you get to create your first package. So if you think about npm is going to build a whole entire module of your automation for this challenge 1. You can name it whatever you want to. Right now, it's just going to, by default, it's going to pick up your folder name. So let's name it challenge 1. It's going to be version 1.0. Description, learning. You don't have to put any description if you don't want to. The entry point is going to be challenge1.js, which we already have. And test command, you don't have to enter anything because we're going to manually run the commands here.
Can we go back to, because we went pretty quick through that last piece.
Okay.
You may want to like maybe reveal your terminal a lot more so we could see more of the commands that you just did.
Okay.
Yeah. On a Mac, the code is not run npm init. It's just npm init, right?
Yeah, npm.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, that's what it's giving me. Gotcha.
And then for the test command, we're just gonna enter. We don't need to worry about a Git repository. We don't need to worry about keywords. Put your own name in here for your author. There's no licensing, really.
Where do you get object not found on
If you have, are you on a Mac or Windows? Windows. Did you add the npm to your system path?
There wasn't a step for us to do that.
If you went to the default install of npm, that handles it for you. But
NodeJS installs it.
what's that?
Doesn't NodeJS install that?
Yeah, yeah. Node.js installs it.
I'm getting the same thing here too. Within add to it.
Try restarting your machine really quick.
Just restart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think if, depending on the operating system, it might not pick up the system path until you restart.
That's a quick way to do it.
So the first command you do is
npm init.
the very first thing that you do.
Yeah, and what that does is it builds this whole entire package of all your dependencies for you. If you're familiar with the Java world, it's like a POM file with Maven. npm init will build a package file. So now that we have everything here as what I entered in, it just basically captures my basic information. Is this okay? I'm going to type yes.
That becomes your package JSON, right?
Yes, it does.
So npm init, are we running that inside of challenges or challenge 1?
Just challenge 1.
Okay.
Okay, so now run npm init, enter the defaults. Okay, now let's look at this package JSON. this package JSON that was created. This package JSON will have the challenge one information, any information that we entered is going to be in here. So now, nice thing with package JSON is we can copy this package JSON from folder to folder. And in the future, all we need to do is do an npm install, and it'll pull down all of our dependencies.
Yeah, is that code just appeared when we did all that stuff in the terminal?
The npm init generates it for you.
Yeah, I still don't have any code.
So,
Is it package JSON? Gotcha.
yeah, because I could just show it here. Now something we created that here for you.
Awesome.
I keep getting the name can only contain URL friendly characters. What did I do wrong there? When I'm trying to create the package, install the package?
But in like apostrophes or something.
Yeah, apostrophes,
Okay.
like commas and all that stuff. Try not to put any of those.
Same thing.
So I'll be able to follow you.
Well, I can see. I don't want to make any guarantees on the outcome.
That looks like a file permissions issue.
Yeah. Or is this a work computer? So
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to easily get without going through that long tutorial for the Mac.
yeah, so I'll be blocked on it, but I'll add the package JSON just manually. Here's what she said.
So,
Name can only contain URL-friendly characters.
so I did create it.
npm install challenge 1.
Um,
Oh, why is she doing that? So it should be. Where's the?
Hey Penny, can you do a PWD in your terminal?
Sure.
That should show you what your path is. Make sure there's nothing weird in that path that you entered.
PWD.
And just hit enter after that.
I did, and all it's doing is telling me the version number. Maybe I should start again. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
PWD gives you a version number.
Mm-hmm. I'll show you. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. It didn't take.
Setup is always the hardest part.
Yep. Oh, yeah, you can just keep on entering right there. Oh wait, actually, package name challenge 1. You can just keep on hitting enter right there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what?
You're currently in the init still. So PWD wouldn't do anything.
Oh, now I see the entry point. Okay.
Yeah. So you're still filling out the whole. It's asking you questions still and everything.
Okay, so I'm at where it says entry point.
Yeah, I think entry point you can just leave default, right?
Yeah, entry point. Hit and just hit enter.
Test command.
Test command I think you just leave the same right now. We can update it later, but I think you just keep it default.
Yeah, just keep it default.
So
Everything
Enter.
keep default.
okay. Okay, I ended up with this. Hopefully this is good. I'll show you.
Yep.
Right.
And if you screw up on this part, if there's some text that you don't like, you can always open up the package JSON and modify it too. So if I don't like this learning right here, I can always go back and change this to
Yeah, this code, that's kind of all the way in here. So maybe.
Right now,
Yeah.
so what I did, yeah, so what I did is, I created a folder. So I have a folder called sources. And I just created a new folder called challenge chain.
Oh.
And then in that, I created the challenge one folder and then the challenge one.
I'm never doing this language. Doing new things, right?
It's kind of painful.
It is what I'm paying for. It knows what I want to do at least. Yeah, it still feels bad. Got there though. Slowly but surely.
10.
Okay, let's, for those of you who are still trying to catch up, I'll let you keep on catching up. The next step, for those of you who are ready, the next step in that document is going to tell you install Selenium and WebDriver. Most of us who are familiar with the Java stuff, it's a lot of manual configuration, a lot of manual tweaking to finally get your WebDriver working. We don't have to worry about that in NPM. That's the beauty of it. We're going to go to our terminal, npm install Selenium WebDriver. Hit enter. And it's going to go out to the cloud and it's going to download your WebDriver package. And now if you look at a package JSON, the package lock.json, it has where all your library and your dependencies are built. So you think, yeah, I just installed WebDriver. No, there's a lot of other libraries that are associated with it. It depends on. You don't have to worry about those dependencies. It handles it for you. Yes.
So we never really even do anything with that file.
No, you don't need to. And if you look at the package JSON, look at your dependencies. It tells you that the one dependencies we have is Selenium WebDriver. So now I can take the same package JSON, give it to Carlos, and he can do an npm install without any package, and it'll install all the dependencies for him. Yeah, so that way everybody can have a consistent workspace that you're working off of, rather than, well, which version do you have? Which version do you have? Well, I can't find this downloaded version. What do I do?
Right. And then the team would every once in a while have to do an npm install to update those dependencies.
Yeah, you can. Yep. Yeah, if you want to lock your dependency, see this little caret right here? The caret says anything in this 4.0.0 versions of the code will work. If you want to delete this caret, then it will lock it to specifically this version. But we don't need to worry about that.
Gotcha.
Now let's go
I
to
had a little bit of time to find out how to do it. I had to clear it and then reinstall it.
Okay, now we have WebDriver installed. Now we need Chrome driver. Because WebDriver will only download the WebDriver packages, but we still can't execute against Chromium. So we're going to run an npm install Chrome driver.
Do you need the Firefox one too?
No, we'll focus just on on Chrome.
Yay!
You accidentally typed npm in your WebDriver configuration, your JSON file.
Oops.
Your line 12.
Those QAIs though, am I right?
The nice thing is that as long as I don't save it, I open it back up,
Yeah.
it overwrites it for me. Yeah. So I was saved there. And so especially right here, it says you already have a file that's open and whatnot. So we're just going to reinstall it. The reason why I'm getting this error message, most of you guys will not see this message. I have Chrome driver installed globally. So if you want to do install globally, you can do a -G. That will install globally. So that way it doesn't, your package doesn't have to be as heavy with all the Chrome driver packages. But for what we're doing, just go ahead and do the Chrome driver. Okay, next up, we're going to install Mocha.
Oh.
What is Mocha?
Mocha is a framework.
It is a framework. It
It's
is,
a really good copy.
What was that one more time?
Said it's a really good copy.
It is a really good copy.
Got
It is.
it.
Unfortunately for our Mocha, it is our test runner. So we can always think about, well, if we write one file and we have to manually click off the main section of that, it's kind of hard. But we're going to let Mocha handle that for us. So Mocha becomes your test runner. It's going to recognize your setup and your tear down your scripts and any test cases you have within a certain file.
So is that like PyTest or RSpec?
Yes. Yep. TestNG is another good option for Java. So it's equivalent.
So why are we installing Mocha globally when Chrome driver was not global?
You don't have to install it globally.
Okay, wait, what step are we on? I'm trying to help him.
27. You're way behind. I'm just kidding.
Jiminy God.
We're now installing Mocha.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Step 8.
Good, I didn't mean to do that, but I
I'm just kidding.
can't open the workspace that's great at all. So
Say
he's
what?
in another workspace and it's kind of messing up his existing work.
Is it a Windows?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Problem right there.
I don't know, well, I'm in Windows at a VM, but I don't know how to fix what they've done. That's aggressive word.
Yeah, don't be so aggressive.
I will be.
Okay.
Not to lie.
Okay, I'm gonna have to. Sometimes Macs are great, sometimes
No, I love systems.
Windows is a really good operating system for certain visual. So does anyone know anything about visual code more than I do? Cogos. Because I can't help it. He's at a point where it should have worked,
Here,
should have worked.
keep going.
but
I'll go over there.
All right.
So in order to
Keep
not
going.
They're
install
both
it
having the same problem.
globally, we just go to the dash key, right?
Yeah,
What are the errors?
well, right now he's got, well, he's in some kind of workspace.
So for step 9, we're going to install Chai.
That's it. That's the thing that goes with Mocha, right?
Yes, Chai is promised.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I got a bunch of errors.
Normally you would be fine.
Failed to parse.
Isolating it away to be as close to working as possible.
So how do they close that workspace?
Something like I think it's.
So, I mean, yeah.
So you're like,
Oh, there's also so many other structures.
Yeah.
what is this?
Yeah, sure. Really good.
So for those of you who are following on that document, it's just step 9. You can just copy and paste these commands.
What is Chai?
That was gonna be my question.
Chai is your assertion library. So if you think about TestNG has its own assertion library built into it.
Right.
Mocha is only your test runner, and Chai is going to be running your assertions. So it's going to look at if you want to validate a certain piece of data on the site on the in your automation. You're going to run a Chai to assert your data to be correct.
Thank you.
Yes, assertion library.
There's another popular JSON one, or yeah, JSON and JavaScript. It's like Jest.
Why does my
Yes.
dependency not show?
Yeah, Jest, and then so that would be the test runner, and then the assertion library.
Let's try it again.
What's the assertion library for Jest?
I don't remember
Yeah,
too many names.
I learned that in boot camp.
Yeah, every JavaScript framework has their own test runner insertion libraries.
Gotcha.
And go to one of the challenge folder here.
So first you run that npm install, save chai, and then on the next line, it installs chai.
Yes.
And find where it's at.
We won't get into any of the advanced stuff with npm. Actually, with npm, you can install everything all your commands on one line. But we won't.
Okay.
Vern's gonna take the challenge.
Matt,
Yes.
your dependencies shows Mocha and mine does not. And I've installed it twice.
Yours does not show Mocha.
Yeah.
Did it install WebDriver?
I've got all the I've got the Gecko drive for the Slumming one. And I just installed Mocha again.
Oh, because you installed it globally.
Oh,
So if you install it globally, it won't let us show up.
oh, I just copied and pasted the thing.
All right, you're good to go.
Okay, all right, good. So I'm good.
You're good.
Okay.
Wakanda forever. All right.
All right. And Chai's installed, so now we go to step 11.
Very nice.
So step 11, okay.
We're getting serious now. This is JavaScript.
We are getting serious. So now let's open up we've already created step 10, which is create your JavaScript file. So if you haven't, go ahead and create that challenge1.js.
Where's that supposed to be?
That
I see
is,
files.
so here's my challenge 1 inside my challenge.
Gotcha, I got one.
So let's open up that file there.
Oh, they're just under the node modules. Does that matter? Mine's actually above. Okay, cool.
It's fine wherever it is here. So with JavaScript, this node modules will apply everything to challenge 1. And this package.json, package lock.json will apply everything to challenge 1. Okay, so let's open up your challenge1.js file. And then the easiest way for now, let's just copy and paste.
Type all that out.
You can type that out. We're going to save some time.
So real quick, for those that don't have that, I'm going to post that to them.
Okay.
Because those with Autobots get to cheat a little bit. Videos right here, right?
Yep, that's it.
So let me grab this, and for those of you who are remote, that's the Google Doc you want to use that has all the steps that we're following. So make sure you use that.
Yeah, apologize for those who were on the Zoom chat. I forgot to paste it there.
I also forgot to know.
They are looking at your screen, right, Rex? And Carlos?
I love it. I love it.
And also there is a,
What was that? Sorry.
for those guys in QA,
No.
I got a bug right here. I forgot to put a semicolon right here. Yeah, it was there. I think,
You don't really need it there, but
JavaScript is a lovely language that likes its semicolons for some reason.
yeah, I think probably when I was editing the doc, I probably hit the backspace in the wrong spot.
In the Chrome driver, you have a little right above the describe.
Yep. Yeah, so the question is, why do we have it before and after? We got to have a universal way to build and tear down our stuff. And the other, if you also have a before method, after method, we won't get to that for now. But just a little quick blip. If you have a before method and after method, it'll run every test, and after the test runs, it's going to run those steps. And before it launches every test, it's going to launch those. But for what we're doing, it's this whole entire file. So all the tests that we're going to fit in here, it's going to run the setup ones and do a teardown ones. And also, I hate closing out my Chrome browsers because I forgot to put it in there after.
So the way you have it set up here, it's going to run the before and after on every test?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And the one that picks up the before and after function is Mocha.
Okay.
Mocha knows how to read these. So that's why we have a test runner. So we don't have to figure out how do I write my main to go execute my before and after. This code that is abstracted from us that we don't have to worry about. Okay. we're in a hurry and go through the rest of this stuff. Okay, next, step 12, we're gonna copy these 3 lines of code, and it's basically importing the libraries that we need. We can stick this typically for all the variables that we need and all the libraries. Let's stick it up top.
Does that Chrome driver not need a variable defined, or is it okay? If it is.
I haven't figured out why this pattern is a little bit different.
For the, what are we talking about?
This Chrome driver. Require Chrome driver versus WebDriver.
Oh, so yeah, so that's kind of how like we in the C# where we say using Selenium.Chrome driver. It's the exact same thing.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
Are you missing another semicolon?
Yeah, good catch. I think, I'm wondering if Microsoft Word started munching up some of my characters. This is why it's good to go through this.
Exactly right.
So step 13, if you guys want to cheat, you guys can go to our finished code right here. It has everything listed in there.
Oh, that's just so cool.
It is cruel, but like I said, my goal is not to confuse you guys so that you guys have a working set of code right here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, and you guys feel free to do that going to step 17. I just want to make sure that we're going through the pieces.
Yes.
Because even though it's nice and convenient to just copy paste everything, once you copy too much, especially if you're new to this, you will get lost very fast. So please ask questions. If there's a line or a function that doesn't make any sense, ask, and that way Matt can answer for you guys.
Yep.
So if you were gonna like use the Firefox driver instead of the Chrome stuff, you'd say require Firefox driver or Gecko driver,
Gecko driver.
and then required Selenium-WebDriver would be the same, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The only problem right now I've noticed with Gecko driver is that it sometimes it randomly fails without any notice.
Is that just on Node?
No.
'Cause I don't have that.
I've seen that too.
Yeah, and it
Weird.
might just be this, but it also depend on the version of Firefox you have.
Yeah.
For me, I disabled my auto updates, and that seems to work a little bit better. But if you have auto updates enabled, sometimes it just randomly crashes.
Mm.
So step 13, we're going to copy this timeout and this declaration of of our driver, and we're going to put it just before the before function. So if you go to your line of code, here's your before. So we're going to stick this inside of our describe.
So is that 20,000 milliseconds?
20,000 milliseconds. We're going to let this entire thing run for a maximum 20 seconds. After that, we're going to kill it off.
I noticed that all your semicolons are there.
Yes, this one is. I'll remember to go update that doc to include it. I gotta throw a wrench in there somewhere, especially for most of us are QA. We're like, hey, we gotta pick out the problem. You know, even me being in QA for 20 years, I'm still not perfect yet. Amazing.
It's hard to QA your own work.
It is so hard. This is a great reason why we always have to have developers in QA. And we never test our own code, because our own code, and if you look at the top of the doc right here, I actually had one other guy review it with me, and we still missed it. Amazing. Amazing.
So in one of my classes, they said if you're going to write a doc like this, you should print it out because it's much easier to proof on paper than it is on the screen. For some reason, it's psychology something, I guess.
Yeah.
I prefer proofing on paper for sure.
All right, so let's move on to step 14. On step 14, we are going to start our Chrome driver. This is how we're going to start our web browser within our JavaScript. We'll copy this, and we are going to put it inside of our before method. So if you look at this, the describe right here is basically your class, and then here's your before method. Stick that in here. The reason why we put this variable driver up above the before is that this right here will make it a variable that's accessible to all the methods. And now we're going to tell where we're going to assign that method. And that method is going to say, well, we're going to start up a thread of WebDriver here. And we're going to pass this driver object from one method to another method. But we're not going to pass it. We're just going to make it a global to this function. This is class. Okay.
And that timeout is part of that class.
Yes,
But that means that the teardown is going to be part of that 20 seconds as well.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah, the second it hits that 20 seconds, it's going to start running the after.
Oh, I see. So it's 20 seconds as before and then bam after.
Yep. So let's go on to step 15. We're going to copy this return driver.quit right into this after.
So just a question, the driver is an object then. So if I were to change the driver in a different function, it would know that it's, sorry, I'm not explaining this very well, but the driver is an object, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So I guess what I was trying to say is that when you close driver there, it's all referring to the same object, even though it's in a different method.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason why it's going to
I
be
forgot.
the same object is that we have this instantiation right here.
I'm like tracking the goals.
If I put this var right here, if I change my code and throw it down here, then this after method will not know how to do a driver.quit because it's not at the class code.
Hey, Matt, would you
Got
mind
it.
enlarging your window so we can see the whole thing? So we can see all the code at once.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it the same as let?
It is special, is basically saying within it, this is the test function.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So like in C# we label it like test, we give an attribute called test.
The test method. Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
it's the same as that.
with
Okay.
Mocha, you're saying it, and then you passing the test function within it.
The nice thing with the it is that if you look at the pattern, this is more of a behavioral driven automation so that you can put your known error that you want to see if it fails right back at you at the end.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next step and you'll see it. So let's go to this document and we're going to copy these two it functions right here.
So that's basically just saying the two test methods that we do in C#. Okay.
Yep.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
But for this first one here, it's going to say it. If you want to put more of a generic of readability, you can say it should open Google website.
Or you could say like it opens the Google website.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm asking, is that a convention that you would go forward? You either say it should, or like it opens the Google website, or it should open the Google website.
It's up to you.
Oh, I like
Which is awesome because as long as something that you can give this to somebody else and they're like, oh, now I know what failed, right?
And so, yeah, I mean, so Mocha is reading the it, and what we put after the it, that's us.
Yep. Yeah, that is actually, that message right there, that's an error that's gonna give back to you.
Gotcha. Okay.
6,000.
I might be showing my age here, but are these going to be run sequentially or randomly?
Analogy to the art test in the TestNG framework, right? I'm just trying to compare it to TestNG, which I've already used. So it can be an analogy analogous to the @rate function, @assertion, right? So it is the one which specifies Mocha that, okay, this is a test method which I need to execute, kind of a thing.
Right.
Question. I have a question.
Yeah.
What
I
is your
tested this
question,
website 20 years ago.
Yeah, Matt. So you have two tests here. Are they going to run sequentially, or are they going to run in a random order?
This is going to be sequentially.
Okay. So that's different than other maybe test frameworks in the past, which have just taken the tests and run them randomly.
Right. We're not going to do anything randomize here. It's going to be the nice thing with this Mocha framework and how it runs in this is really functional programming. So it's going to hit each function the way that you wrote in there, step by step.
Okay, because that's different from something like Microsoft unit test framework, where their philosophy was is each test should be independent. So we're going to run them in one random order, and not ever tell you this is much easier to build a sequential set of discrete tests.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No, just reading.
So here's our finished code. Should look like that.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Okay, now I did have this one other note. If you want to copy this this note right here, this function, let's paste it into our JavaScript file. And the reason why, so if you, based on this right here, we're going to run 3 different tests. We're going to go to Google, open up the web browser, go to Google, and we're going to test to see if the title is called Google. Both these 2 tests right here is the exact same test, but the pattern of how you're handling your JavaScript code, remember JavaScript is extremely, extremely fast. Faster than pretty much most of the stuff that we would ever can visually see. So what happens when you have to do a nested promise? So with the JavaScript, remember it's asynchronous. So that means if you want to run 30 different commands, 30 different tests within this that run simultaneously in parallel, you can make it run parallel. You can do all your requests in parallel. But then it makes troubleshooting really hard. Okay. This right here says driver.get title, then I'm going to return the function title to this return, and I'm going to assert that the title is equal to Google. That is so hard to understand, troubleshoot. This is the typical pattern that you will see on the web if you're searching for tutorials. But if you use the async function and use a driver await, this pattern right here is more what we are used to as we program in pretty much all of the languages. It's line by line by line. Because this one here, I was troubleshooting. Let me show you what I did. Challenges. I think it was challenge 2. There's my return. Notice I have a driver, there's my function, then I'm going to do another get attribute, and these returns are a mess. And then there's another function right here trying to do a false statement, trying to go through this, and trying to follow these .then promise functions is difficult to understand first. So for what we're doing, it's better to just follow a step line by line pattern rather than having it nest into each other another function.
So do you suggest that we use the await function?
Yes.
Okay, because even when I was learning JavaScript, the promise thing is still not clicking in my head. It's not.
It's a little tough.
Yeah,
it is tough.
Because I can't put it in context with anything else I've done right now.
Right. Yeah.
So one of the best explanations I've seen for promise was actually in your document, Matt. When you look at the notes and you explain what a promise is, that was helpful to me.
Yeah, so you're talking about this challenge 2 tutorial. There's a lot of stuff, and right here where Howard's talking about this.
Oh, okay.
These 2 right here, async await with WebDriver.
I thought there was actually a paragraph where you explained what a promise was.
Yeah, there's also another one.
Yeah, where is that? Is it in the black text or is it in those links?
Step 16.
Yeah, step 16.
Okay.
Yep.
Step 16 says the function. There it is. Oh, I have it.
I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar with that term.
Don't worry about promises because it,
Slowly going away.
yeah,
Okay.
it's very confusing.
Exactly.
All right.
If you want to be like some really cool developer writing automation, by all means use promises. But for the rest of us, I don't even like using it. I'm like, this is garbage. I don't.
Yeah.
It's got to be easy.
Dot then, dot then, dot then, dot then.
Yep, I don't want to do dot then.
Did you say that's a structure that's going away?
It's not a structure that's going away, but it's a structure that a lot of developers use when they write their asynchronous JavaScript code.
Mm-hmm.
But for what we're doing, we would have too many commands nested. Remember, developers, when they're writing a promise, they're only pulling one piece of data. They don't have to wait for other stuff to happen. Once they get the one piece of data, they can execute whatever they want to. For us, we might be running 3 or 4 different steps within that that function. And so not having that line by line structure makes it really difficult to troubleshoot. So we're going to go with the await pattern.
I had a question on, like, for example, the after or even the tests themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The very last line we're doing is always returning something. So why would we say return driver.quit?
Good question.
Return driver.
Because on almost all the other languages, you would just say driver.quit and not have to return anything.
Right. You actually don't have to return anything. But remember, if you're going to be promising something, you always have to do a return. Otherwise, your function will never go on to the next function. So, but it's a good practice. The return really here, it doesn't really do anything. But when we start writing more of a functional test, a functional set of tests or steps, but we pass in a parameter, we're going to return a value back to the function that initially called it. So
that makes sense.
It's just a good pattern to get into of always writing a return in your steps, even if you don't need it. That's one thing I love about JavaScript is that it's not typed, so that in Java, if I say, well, I'm going to try to promise to return you a Boolean, I have to return Boolean. If you forget, the code won't compile and it screams at you until you figure out what your return value is. But for JavaScript, just remember, always try to do a return. Even if it doesn't really return anything to anybody, it's just an end of a promise.
And that's basically what Node is about, or one of the components of Node is the ability to do these promises and wait for something to happen while something else is going on. Is that right?
So now that we have our test, now for the last step, we're looking at step 17. How many of you guys have launched this already?
I tried, it aired out.
Aired out? Okay.
I got a command not found. Dash.
Okay.
Command not found.
Challenge1.js.
Reference driver is not defined as my dot.
Oh, it's because I was doing challenge. Okay.
You should open the reference driver.
I'm gonna check the directory.
Okay, we'll take a look at yours. Let's see if mine works right here. I'm going to run a Mocha and challenge1.js, which is my file. It's going to execute. It's going to open it up. Loads up Google, and done. So it tested, validated 3 different things. It opened Google's website, and both of them checked that the title is Google, and gave me a thumbs up. Total 4 seconds. Pretty quick.
Let me look at this.
Does it work for you?
Yeah.
Well, right on. Yeah. And you're doing it in a, that's it. No, but hopefully at least now it's like, okay, like you, at least right now, hopefully you can start writing more if statements, like more tests. Okay, now that I'm here, let me test this, let me test this. That's the start. And then once you have that down, you'll now get us to the next step after that. So, yeah. But awesome though, awesome. I can't get it to run yet. Yeah.
Yeah, because essentially what I want to do is basically automate what I have to test it.
I would say 100% do that.
And then just-
And the nice thing is that at Lucid they do it in TypeScript, and so it's basically JavaScript. And so what you're learning right now will be helpful there as well, because then you'll actually be able to see like what they're writing, and you'll be like, I know what this. I know what this is. Yeah, yeah. So it'll be nice.
That looks better.
Well, what can I do outside of here to be better? Like, should I-
Honestly, like, so there's lots and lots of tutorials online. That'd be a good one too.
Because I don't remember any of
Jane.com. I mean, not Jane, I'm sorry. No.
I was like,
Linda.
what?
Linda, my bad. Different, yeah. No, Lynda.com. I just started using it to learn C#, and it makes a lot of sense. It seems like it's of everything I've seen, it's the most, including my entire bootcamp, it's the most put together and understandable.
Yeah, if you have a,
Use Jane.com is too complicated.
if you have a Pluralsight account, which I think you do, I would just search for stuff there. If you want to continue with Mocha, make sure you're searching Mocha stuff. The most popular one on Pluralsight, I think, is Jest for JavaScript stuff, which is super similar. Still JavaScript, it's different from Mocha, but everything else is almost the exact same. So that'd be really helpful, I'd say. Otherwise, just pick a website like this and just start trying to write tests against it. And yeah, you'll be learning a ton, lots of reading, lots of how do I do this?
Yeah.
Alas, that's development.
Because I was having like a midlife crisis. And I was like,
How are you having a midlife crisis?
that's what I was gonna ask you.
It just happens?
It just happens.
I
Okay.
had my first one at 7.
I was like, oh, should I go back for my master's?
No.
You want to keep working in tech, in software?
No, I don't know.
How do you?
Why would you go back to school if you're
I
already?
love school.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, school is
I
good.
love school.
Yeah.
I love school.
Hey,
But this, I can get
well,
on.
if you took, I couldn't fix it. You don't have to show up.
I don't have that equal.
I tried to do that.
And do that, just go back and work for this.
Well, I mean, I went to a community college.
So,
Yeah, I went to school straight. What I found is that it actually, this is what Carlos was saying. One of the awesome things about Autobots is it actually gives me some focus. You know, because it's
Now it'll
universal,
work
it's
for you.
outward, every single website is a graphical.
Okay, now you gotta
So,
allow that.
yeah, having some kind of
Yeah.
task, and I haven't been particularly writing out tasks.
there you go.
Because Autobots is going to provide all the time. Still, great. Well, I got access to it through the library. So if you have a library,
Okay.
you probably get it for free. Yeah, otherwise it's a bit.
So now you have the basic pattern. Now you have challenge 1 done. Let's create a challenge 2 folder. Now we're actually going to write some real code. And I'm not going to give you the answers to it. Okay? Yes.
Mercy on us, oh great Matt.
Did everyone's tests ran?
Yes.
For challenge 1?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if you need to.
I don't know what there is.
Yeah, just maybe it's not supposed to talk about
What was this? It was a security right. So go back to your. Let's go back to the security.
Oh, the doc is, yeah, from just right there.
Can't find chai out. Did I not get it? Where's my chai stuff?
Yeah,
install.
Yeah,
It does not work.
I did not install.
Oh, whoops. I didn't do
I
that.
mean, I got rid of the -G or installing Mocha.
Oh, you need to have the dash.
I do, okay, cool. So I can just do that now, right?
Do it again and I'll install.
Gotcha.
And then since we got a folder, he's like, oh, wait, this folder's gone. I don't have it anymore.
Yeah, if you don't install it globally, then you have to know exact path of
Yeah.
Mocha.
That makes sense.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to go to our workspace of challenges. We're going to create a new folder. We're going to call this challenge 2. Okay, now we have the challenge 2 created, this folder. So instead of going through all of our npm init and all that stuff, let me show you the trick. We're going to take this package JSON and we're going to take this challenge 1. We're going to use the same structure. We're going to copy these 2 files, copy, and we're going to right click on this challenge 2 folder and do a paste. Yep. And then we're going to rename this challenge 1 to challenge 2. If we really want to be specific and change this describe function to do challenge 2. And we're going to open up another terminal by right clicking on challenge 2. Let's open up another terminal. Ready to go. This way you don't have to use the CD command trying to figure out where your folders are and whatnot. Yeah, it runs on a.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the challenge. I got a file that says challenge 2, but it's empty. I didn't see what you did to bring challenge 1 into it and then rename it.
I just copied it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just copied from the challenge 1 folder.
Okay.
So like Vern said, once you have the challenge 2 open in your terminal, all you do is npm install. And it's going to bring down every dependency that we need.
Oh, just in the challenge 2 directory?
Yep.
That's cool.
If we did not install Mocha globally, do we have to install that first or after, or how does that work?
Yes, you need to install Mocha globally if you just want to run the Mocha command. So if you look at this right here, it just says Mocha. If you don't install it, you're going to have to do a, let's see, I think you have to go into like node modules. I think it's node modules / Mocha / I think there's another command, I think it's Mocha. So if you installed it globally, it adds it to your system variable so that it recognizes what Mocha like this is going to be.
And if someone is trying to install this and they don't have Mocha installed, will it install Mocha for them?
Yeah, if you do, well, all you need to do is just do if you already have Mocha installed globally, just run npm install -g Mocha, and it will install it globally and wipe it out from your local project.
I probably asked my question poorly. So let's say that I want to share, like you just did, your package.json and your challenge.js.
Oh.
Someone downloads it and you did not install Mocha globally, installed it locally, then when you do npm install, it will install it for them?
No, that's a good question. If you install something globally, then it will not install it for them when they do an npm install. So you have to give them tell them open up all your repo and do an npm install -g once you get npm node installed.
Or could they, if you shared this stuff with them and you have it installed locally, will it install it locally for them as well?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So local right here. So this one here, if you open up your node modules, because we installed it globally with the list, you should not see Mocha in this. Oh, it is Mocha. It looks like it still pulls it down for the whole entire project, but just gives you a global path to it.
I see.
right? You do a command npm install in the new directory, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, in the package JSON on challenge 2, do we need to change the start point to challenge2.js?
You don't have to.
Okay,
Angel, what was that you said? You do an npm install. Is that just by itself or npm install plus something?
npm install within the challenge2 directory.
Within the challenge too? Gotcha.
Yeah,
That makes sense. Okay. Challenge two.
And then, oh, now we're just going.
If you want to change your describe function, right, your describe class right here and change it to challenge 2, you can.
One quick follow-up question.
Okay.
So for ultimate portability, if I wanted to give someone no instructions or as few instructions as possible, assuming they have Node already installed, if I install Mocha locally and pass those 2 files to someone and they do an npm install, it will install Mocha locally for them.
It will install Mocha locally for them, but the Mocha, your path variable will not be on that machine. So when they execute it, they're going to have to go /node modules /Mocha, and I think it's Mocha, and then we're going to do a challenge 2.js.
I see. So the advantage to install it globally is that now all you have to do is type Mocha and then your file and it runs.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, Matt, I read your next paragraph.
Okay.
From this person, adding any of my repositories to my GitHub. I suck at it. I always mess it up 3 times. Is there like simplified steps to add these things to GitHub?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
will you give them to me?
I will send it out after we do the class. So for those of you guys want to
Because I've messed it up so many times. I just barely did one with the Amazon tests and it took forever for me to my GitHub.
Really, it should be 4 commands. Yep.
Do you create the repository first in GitHub?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I
then
did that.
once you create that repository, then you'll have a link. But the hard part is trying to say, do I want SSH authentication? I want to set up my global variable or global authentication. So that's the stuff that you have to go step by step through their setup.
Okay.
So as far as checking the code in and pushing your code up to your GitHub, it should be, I think it's 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, if you could send those, that would be great. 'Cause I constantly mess it up over and over and over again.
Actually, since we're waiting for everybody else,
I think there's somewhere on GitHub that has those 5 commands like in order. Like the first command's like an init, the second one gives it
Yeah,
the
but
URL.
But I'm doing it from an existing source. The source already exists on the machine.
Right.
I just want to push it up. And for some reason, those commands keep giving me errors all the time.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, because I tried those.
I'm embarrassed by how poor I am at GitHub.
Well, I am too. It's like staff.
Yeah.
here's your 5 commands. Get init,
Wait a minute.
get add dot, get commit -m, put your comment in there, and then get remote, add origin. This is the path you'll need to your folder that you created in GitHub.
Get init.
And then all you need to do is do a git push and set your upstream.
I would say copy that and just throw it into the Autobots channel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's great. Because I can barely read it. I can barely read it.
Probably want to use.
Yeah.
There's no chance.
Chance of typo.
Hi, very much.
Does the dot quick, does it do a dispose too? Or do you have to go and actually kill the other properties?
I don't know.
Good question. I'm not sure.
It looks like it's been like closing out the browser, but it doesn't get rid.
It does on a PC.
Come on, bro. I'll back you up.
Come on, bro.
All right, we're gonna figure this
I love
out. So is that a Mocha?
And I would say format it a tiny bit. And you can just put like 3 backticks on the top and the bottom, and that'll format the whole thing for you.
3 vectors.
Yeah. So it's the tildes at the very, very top. Yeah. And then do 3 at the very bottom. So after master, yeah. You hit enter. Well, it's not the squiggly line, it's like the back tick.
Oh, the back.
It's what you get when you don't hit shift.
Okay.
Nope. The same key as the tilde key, only don't hit shift.
Yeah.
There you go, and on the top as well.
Mm.
Woo!
You got it.
You guys are good.
Holy cow, I didn't even know that.
There you go.
Oh my god, Carlos formatting is so nice. Every time I push enter, it's like,
Yeah.
copy and paste sucks.
It used to frustrate me to no end, but if you start typing there in the message box, it'll show you some shortcuts on the bottom. Matt, if you want to type something in that box there in Slack. Or not, never mind.
Okay.
Doesn't run early,
So now with challenge 2, let's go read what challenge 2 is. So we're going to do assertions here, and there's a lot of tutorials. I'll let you guys do that as homework to read about it. If you guys want to read about weights while we're doing some of the things we do, if you want to watch a video that explains it, it's all right here for you. Okay. One thing that you will need to do as part of additional learning, learn how to get attributes and get text with WebDriver. Most of us who've been using WebDriver for a long time, the syntax is exactly the same. Okay, but there is a good example right here. This one here is one of the best examples that I've seen. So if you want to do a get attribute name, so if you look at a website, let's go to our trusty Chrome. Everything inside of these tags right here, these divs and whatnot, these are your attributes that you're looking for. So if you want to do the attribute class, it's going to return you tab, dash, pane, fade, in, active. You want to do attribute ID, it's going to give you tab, trending. So you can change these to whatever you want to. You don't have to follow with name, ID, class. You can do a get attribute status. So for those of us who are testing asynchronous JavaScript, CSS. So if a button changes from active to inactive, you can get that status off your element.
Which one of those links is that on?
That is this one right here.
You want?
Get attributes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna read that one tonight.
Oh yeah. This is awesome. Lots of links to go through, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Lots and lots. Okay, so the first one here, it's basically what we just barely did. We're going to assert that we're going to go to copart.com. Okay. And we're going to assert that the Copart page comes up correctly. So basically, we're pretty much similar to what we did for Google, but we're going to change this to Copart. And go to copart.com. And then we're going to get the title. What is the title?
The title is Copart.
Maybe. Yep.
Oh, shit, Copart.
We're going to have to go into the web browser and go into your head. That is where your title is going to be. And let's figure out where that title is. Remember, it has to match. Yeah. Fancy page. Holy cow.
Leader. Well, no, that's a description. Could it be auto auction dash Copart USA dash salvage cars for sale?
Yep. So copy that.
Wait a minute, how do you find that?
Okay, in the HTML, it's in the head.
Okay.
So drop down the head, and then there's a whole bunch of scripts, and then there's some styles, and then there's some meta, and then it says title ng.
I love it.
Yeah, like there. All the secret stuff you learned. Your browser.
The title is actually, I mean, that's actually text.
That's so great.
Is that text on the page?
That is text. So if you look in the upper right hand or upper left hand corner of your browser, you won't actually see the full text. It'll actually say auto auction dash Copart USA and then dash SAL. It looks like a partial V and it disappears.
Title there. Oh.
Yeah.
So we have to put all that text in.
If you, right now with the current assertion that we have, it says equal. So we're gonna have to use that whole entire string.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So it says, the line says, the title is, short quote, auto auction, Copart USA salvage for sale.
Yep. And we're going to change this title for our script.
You have to change it in 2 places?
You don't have to change it up here, but remember, this is the error message that's going to get returned to you. So let me show you this. So if I just change this to, it has to equal fully. So if I change the second of part of my assertion to be only partial of that title, now if I run,
Oh, I see.
Mocha challenge 2.js. So here in the assertion library, so right here it says, I expected auto auction copart.com, okay, but it actually equals. These are not equal. So if you go further up in your
I am?
console,
Oh, I was like, I thought I was right with you guys.
No,
it showed
question.
Yeah.
2 pass, 1 fill.
I remember that
And we
dollar
also
sign
need to change
changes
it
for
in
X.
line 21.
Why won't it for?
Line 20. I opened the Copart.
I found,
Yeah.
found this,
Yeah.
it's class.
Yep.
My tests still aren't running, but
Okay.
I'm okay.
It's a class, but it's not, is it a class? Can I do get my class name for that?
Mhm.
And it'll come up with
Yeah,
it?
I would say try to avoid using the class name locator just because it's a little, it's not, sometimes it'll work the way you expect it to.
Right, because there's a lot of class names.
Well, just also like compound classes and whatnot doesn't do a good job of handling that. But CSS makes it super easy. You can find a lot of the, like the classes. CSS makes it super easy.
So what do you, dollar sign?
And then
parentheses?
dollar sign, and then just inside the string, just dot the class name.
That's stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the A then? Attribute.
So you mean like the type of element, like an A element?
Well, I remember you doing an A dot something.
So
So what
A
else
would be the anchor element. So it's the type of element. So like for example, so here, hopefully you can see this. If I say title,
Right?
it's going to return me that they don't have jQuery on the website. Hold on, let me do it this way then. They don't have jQuery on the website. So
Oh, so it's gonna be on.
Yeah, so
Get.
query selector and that'll do it. It'll be the same thing, but so if I do title, it'll actually find the title element,
Okay, all right.
right? And so if I do the same thing and go with A, it's gonna find the first A element, which is this guy right here.
Okay, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's the type of element.
That
So
is.
it could be A, div, span, right? And title is also a type as well.
All right, we're gonna go one
Or
more
tag.
step fancy for you guys,
Nice.
because we're a lot of times trying to validate something is equal as a pain in the butt. Because right here, if I change this capital S to a lowercase s, it's gonna fail.
Yeah. And
So-
then 2 lowers?
Yes, you can do 2 lowers or whatnot, but ideally, I'm just gonna validate just the first part. So if I'm on the web page,
Oh, starts with?
include.
Oh, include, okay.
Yep. So I'll show you my code in challenge 2 that I did.
Oops.
Okay. Assert.include. Yep.
So we don't need the title, we just want that auto auction or Copart USA, anything like that?
You can make it whatever you want to.
Oh, nice.
So you want to do dot include.
So it's essentially a contains.
Yep. So now if I run the same exact test to challenge, I should get 3 passing.
Oh, good call.
So why, I mean, the text looked identical on the screen. What made it fail?
It made it fail because if you look at HTML right here, the title is actually this whole entire thing. Everything wrapped between the open title and the closing title, that's your exact text you're validating. So in my code right here, if you look on my screen, if I only validate this to be exactly like what it is on the site, it won't validate correctly.
So are you saying the ng include is part of the title according to the web page?
The ng include
Or the ng bind?
No, this is part of the title tag. So we're actually right here. I don't know if you can see that color difference.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's actually your title exactly.
Oh, so that was in your test title, but it wasn't in your equals statement.
Right.
Oh, okay. I get it. Thank you.
Equal right here, it has to equal that for it to match. But most of the times, like, well, somebody can change this, salvage all this text to something else. I really don't want to bother with it. So I'm just going to do a partial validation on it.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That's a good tip.
I think this next part will leave us homework. But to finish off challenge 2, we have our assertions done. We're going to do a search. We're going to go to this text field and run a search for exotic. I'm going to do enter. And we're going to look for, this whole entire page, doesn't matter where, we're going to look for the word Porsche.
Okay.
Okay. And if we follow our example, we'll keep on working on this. Let's go back to Google's site. Okay. I'll give you guys the example in Google so that you guys don't copy off my code and then be done. Okay. So here we have. Yeah, this is a different file that I have. This one I'm going to show you guys the kind of some of the functions we're using. Okay, we're going to have to start using the driver.findElement command. Mark this down as your notes. We're going to have to do a find element. Okay, it's okay.
He's just showing through Google.
Yeah, so we're going to be using the command driver.findElement because at this point we're going to say we have to figure out how to find this element for this search. Okay. And then we're going to say, okay, now inside of that element that we found where that search field is, we're going to send the keys Porsche. And then we're going to do a key.enter, and that will execute the search. So if you look at it from the person's point of view, so as a user here, let's go back to home page. And what it's going to do, so we're going to go here. It's going to identify this search field. I'll show you how we're going to find that in a minute. We'll type in the word exotic, and then we're going to hit the enter key on the keyboard. There's an action listener. That will run our search for us. So that's what we're going to try to emulate in our test.
Okay, but we're not looking for it in the console.
No.
We're actually going to write some script.
Right. So let's go to Google site because we are going to do all of our examples in Google, and you guys get to do homework on Copart. So Google has something similar. We can do a Porsche here, hit enter, and voila, Google returns us all of our results. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's figure out how to find our WebDriver element. First thing you do, highlight the stuff that you want to look for. Right-click in your Chrome browser and do inspect. Let's see. This will get you to the input class. Now, is there anything in this element on this web page that's unique?
The title search.
Where are you seeing that?
Second to last.
So you see,
On the web page or on the field?
Yeah, you can do a title search right here. That's unique.
so you want to be looking at the HTML.
Yeah,
The label search would also there.
yeah, this one right here. You can do this name Q. I probably wouldn't do type text because that's too generic. Max link 2048 is probably pretty unique on this page, but it's not static. People can change this max length all the time. But usually the name right here is something that somebody won't change. So here's a trick to figure out how many of these elements exist. So when you are in your Chrome inspector and you clicked onto these elements and you see your elements right here, we're going to do a Control F. This will find your, open up your XPath and your path identifiers. Okay. So now if you type in // body, it's going to find your body.
It's in the console.
Yep.
/ body.
If you want to do // div,
Did you do the,
You paste in.
so he did the Command F or Control F
Control F.
on the element. So do that first, and that should open up this tool that you're seeing. So this is separate from the console.
So it's not a copy, it's Control F.
Yeah. So here, if you do type in body, notice that right here in the lower right-hand corner, it found 101 element. If I want to target a div, probably not a good idea because there's 1 out of 197. So as you're trying to find a locator, trying to find something that's unique. Usually IDs are always unique. You can only have one ID on the page. Names, you can have multiple names. Other values are CSS classes. Those are not unique. You can have the same one over and over again. So if I do a, let's do a, let's do a style. 24 styles. If you want to do a /anchor, there's 49 links on this page. Kind of crazy. You really look at this page, it's like it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of stuff on this page, but there's 49 anchor tags on this page. Okay. So as far as a Google command, we're going to use a by command. This by command is what you're going to search by. And we're going to do a search by the name of Q.
Okay, I got lost.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Sorry, Control F isn't working.
I don't know what you're control F-ing on top of.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Here, we'll open your Chrome inspector.
I have a question.
Hello. Is the one for me or one for Matt? Matt's away from his computer.
So while he's away, maybe you can help with this.
Okay.
So he went through and showed us that by doing Control F, we can search on elements. But how do we know that a particular query that we're going to do, like by name Q, is actually going to work before we put it in our test?
Yeah. So I think inside of here, oh, you can't even see my screen, but essentially inside of the console, you can specify the XPath to either say, find it by the name, and the name is the attribute, or use a CSS selector to do that as well. So I know that you can't see my screen, so I'll write it inside of the Autobots channel real quick.
Oh, okay.
But so like here, for example, if we did,
Okay, but I never did Control F. Like this was just
something like that, where you say inside of my locator, I want to look at the attribute name that equals Q. You'll actually see that start selecting things inside of the console.
So will the console also tell me how many results for that particular thing?
Exactly right. Yep. So if you just put in that, you probably don't have to put those quotes on there, but if you just do the square brackets name equals Q inside of that little field, that should show you how many are found with that query. And that would be identical to the by.name that you're seeing.
Console open name equals Q close enter. Oops. Oh, it showed one input.
Right, which is exactly what you're looking for. So that would basically how you would be able to find things by name is you would do a square bracket, name equals whatever value you're looking for.
This seems.
If you did want to do the same thing for ID.
You can do the same thing. You would just say replace name with ID equals something, right? You could also, with ID is nice because you can cheat a little bit by using the pound sign. Just pound sign something, and that also means ID. But what's nice about the square brackets is anytime you do square brackets inside of selecting, you're specifying attributes. Of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So ID input search found.
You got it. And so that's what you would put in to your code. You just put quotes around it, throw it into that selector, by ID, and paste it in.
I don't know how to do selecting it.
Oh, okay. But you found it on the website, which means you already have the selector.
Okay.
So if you did it by ID, then you just need to say ID equals, in your case, you said search, right? So ID equals search. Inside of the code, you would say by.id, and inside of the parentheses, just put in search.
Oh, okay.
So just to clarify, it actually, in the console, it actually brings the input into the, it brings that item that it found into the console so that I can inspect it further. Is that what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm thinking that if we're trying to return everything that has Porsche, we're trying to do that for the word Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm doing to do that is just inspecting the first place I see the word Porsche.
You can inspect the whole entire page. You can look at the first element. If you look at right here on my screen here, for this validation, on Google, I'm going to find this text field named Q. I'm going to send the keys of Porsche to enter. And then I'm going to do a driver.wait. Driver.wait until title contains the word Porsche in it. So if you look at Google right here, and do a Porsche.
Dot find element, is that what we're doing?
Yep. And now if you look at Google, whenever they run a search, they always return you back what you searched. So there's my title, Porsche Google search. So what I'm going to wait for is wait for this page to load before I run my next command. So driver.wait until title contains the word Porsche in it. And because I search for uppercase here, it's going to be uppercase here. If you search for lowercase, it'll be lowercase. Okay, and then right here, it's going to be a 10,000 second wait, which millisecond, which is 10 seconds. But for those of you guys who are not caught up, I will copy and paste this section of code right here to how to work on Google into the Autobots.
So I've just created a new folder called Porsche search for this. And then that's also got to have the package lock, JSON, package JSON.
You don't need the package lock.
Okay.
Package lock is generated, just the
Okay.
package JSON.
All right. And I can just copy that and paste it into it, right?
Yep. So there's a.
So go ahead.
Okay, so okay, I got it. I think I have it.
So the easiest way for you guys to figure out what this code is doing, just copy and paste this into your, just copy and paste, and stick it into your,
.js file?
yep, your challenge2.js file.
Oh, challenge 2.
Yep.
Are we still on challenge 2? Sorry.
Yeah, we're still on challenge 2.
Okay.
So challenge 2, we're playing around with different types of assertions.
Yeah.
but we're going to run a search too. So we're going to go one more step deeper. Okay. And this, did I copy the wrong code? No, I didn't. Okay, so here. Remember, we kind of changed this function right here. Let's change this back to Google so you guys can see what it looks like. And then you guys do your homework. We'll do, don't worry about title contains. There it is. We'll delete these two methods. So we're right back to where we started from Google. Okay. So if you look at your challenge one, this is what your challenge one looks like with these two assertions. And you can take the code that I just pasted and paste that into there.
Okay, starting a challenge, like 31, 37 years.
Yep. Yeah, I was playing around with my file a little bit too much.
Why a lot of spaces?
It's okay if you have spaces. The other thing is try to play around with this console.log HTML, just uncommented it, and you can comment it out. But as you run this code, it'll spit out all the HTML on the page, so you can see what it's trying to do, what it's trying to capture.
When we want to, if we want to try, like if it just did what we just wrote in, we do Mocha challenge2.js.
Yep.
Okay.
So I got started on the wrong foot and I haven't done any of this. So I'm going to try and do all this after we're done tonight over the next few days and see if I can do it from memory. But your instructions have been super clear. I really appreciate it.
That's good feedback because I don't want to get everybody lost on this. The only thing I don't have on the on that document is the stuff how to make it work on Google. But that's where all these different tutorials give you pointers to. It's basically giving you everything that we have. This whole entire huge bucket of Legos. You only get to pick out just the Legos that you need and build yourself something.
And so you love automation.
Wow. Never thought of that, but that's true.
So we'll leave the rest of this challenge to as homework for you guys. So hopefully most of you guys have written your first few tests.
I think we're there.
You'll get there.
Yeah, nothing's working. But it's got a semicolon issue. It doesn't like the semicolon. It doesn't like having the semicolon. And then that's probably a signal of something.
Go back to go read through the challenge one again. Copy and paste that code.
I think I need to recreate it. I think I had lots of file structure problems.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I did it in challenge one. So
delete it all and restart this. Well, I'm just
My work computer.
I'm gonna switch to
Which is okay.
So on challenge one, it looks like, all right, on line 24, we've got something that says the title's Google. And then on line 31, we have something else that says the title's Google.
That's
Yeah.
just two different ways of doing the same.
Two different ways to do the assertion. Remember the first one, that promise, don't use that one. I had to add it in there because most of the examples that you see online is that example.
Oh.
But that example is extremely messy for what we're going to be doing.
I'll just comment it out.
Yeah. Okay. So use that second one where it's broken up into two lines in this async function. And I'll show you what challenge 2 is going to look like. It's going to be fast.
Yeah, do it really fast so we can't read it.
Open terminal. We're going to do Mocha. Challenge 2.
No, that's cool.
JS.
Because I got it to open code files, but it didn't do anything after that.
So it's going to run that exotic, and it's going to find the word force somewhere in there. So that'll be your homework, and you will have to search a little bit more deeper on trying to get the easiest way for challenge 2 to solve your problem is look at all the text that's on the whole entire web page. Let the machine do your work, because all you need to do is that the page has to include the word Porsche. So let the machine do your work. That's really all I'm testing, is that my search actually worked and there's a word Porsche on it. That's it.
Right on, you guys. I'd say let's give Matt a round of applause.
Quick question, Matt.
What was that?
I have a question for you, Matt.
Yeah.
At the end of one of the challenges, it talks about checking things into GitHub so you can check the work. Is that for your STG contractors, or is that a service you're going to offer to the people in your class tonight as well?
I'm offering to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that, oh, sorry.
Repo, like,
For now,
it actually looks like we're not just going through code challenges all the time.
if you guys want me to, I will write up a step-by-step documentation. I'll attach it to the end of this to check your code into GitHub, and then that way you guys can follow the instructions and get your code checked up from there.
I think that'd be helpful.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Checking up would be like each one of us would have our own branch.
No, we have our own repo.
Yep, you will create your own account in GitHub, create your own folder and repo, and commit your code.
Okay.
And that way I can download it and look at what you guys built. So yeah, it is part of everybody. The reason why I don't mind helping everybody out there, not just STG employees, is because you never know when our paths will cross. And you guys might not like where you're working at. We would love to bring you on board at STG or whatever companies that we're trying to help our clients at. And if you guys find this useful, if you guys want me to come into your office to kind of give you guys tutorials for your other people inside your office, I can do that too. I've been really blessed with the knowledge I have, and I don't see as why I should hold on to it.
You're here.
Thanks, man. That's awesome.
Because I can't take this. I can take this knowledge with me, but I don't want it to die with me.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. Thanks again, Matt, for the time you took. So just a quick, before we're done, next week we're not going to have the training because it's QA at the point next week, and so come to the meetup for that. The week afterward, we'll continue this again for 3 weeks, and Matt will be continuing this. So you have 2 weeks to get the homework done. So I fully expect you guys to be able to get it done in the 2 weeks for sure. And feel free to reach out to either Matt or myself, or just ping us in the Autobots channel with any questions or anything you're running into as you're completing the homework. But otherwise, guys, that's it.
So the homework
Awesome.
is challenge 2?
Yes, challenge 2.
Because I have just
All right, everyone at home, thanks so much for attending. We'll see you in a couple weeks.